Chapter 66 Victory. Swap. Ellison's expression turned strange. After looking at Huo Yuao seriously for a while, he turned towards the others. Stay here and don't move. Wait for a while. After that, he grabbed Huo Yuao and disappeared without a trace. Huo Yuao had been taken away by Ellison, leaving Wang Dong somewhat anxious. Sister Xiaotao, what's going on? There's no use asking me anything. Ma Xiaotao said unhappily. You should question Huo Yuao instead. What did he do just now? Dai Yueheng's pain was currently surrounding Ling Luoqan. The ice on her body was slowly melting, and after a few moments, the armor of ice disappeared. She had a pale expression on her face, and she nearly fell down as her body shook. Xiao Xiao rushed up to catch up, but she immediately felt as though she was touching ice when she touched her body. The usually cool Ling Luoqan was filled with astonishment at this moment. She didn't know what had just occurred either. After that strange scorpion had looked at her, she immediately felt as if the soul power in her body had been frozen. This was the first time she'd encountered a situation in which she was completely powerless to even resist. Even a titled Douluo wouldn't be able to strip her of her combat strength with a mere glance. However, that scorpion had done just that. Ellison didn't bring Huo Yuao anywhere far. He merely went to a corner of the assessment area. Just what happened just now? Explain everything in more detail. Ellison asked, somewhat panicked. When Huo Yuao had transformed into the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion, Ellison's reaction was that the former was a transformed soul beast. Or rather, a soul beast that had decided to recultivate into a human. After reaching 100,000 years of cultivation, a soul beast could choose to recultivate into a human. However, this path was extremely difficult, because it would then have to undergo a period of weakness. Furthermore, the aura on its body would still remain that of a soul beast. Once it was discovered by a powerful soul master, the only result was death. Furthermore, it would become that soul master's soul ring and soul bone. Only after reaching the 7-ringed rank would a soul beast thoroughly master its aura and become a true human. However, how easy would this process be? Because of this, very few soul beasts would choose this path. With the Ice Empress level of power, she wouldn't dare to risk her life in this way. Greatly astonished, Ellison examined Huo Yuao's body. However, he quickly calmed down. In his heart, he already knew that there was no chance of Huo Yuao being a soul beast. The most powerful evidence attesting to this fact was his twin martial souls. Recultivated soul beasts would definitely maintain their original form, and thus there was no chance of one having a second martial soul. The fact that there was no trace of the aura of a soul beast on Huo Yuao's body nearly further verified that he was truly a human. With Ellison's cultivation, no matter how many brilliant tricks a person had, there was no way to conceal anything from the former when he was holding onto you. However, Ellison was curious. He had no idea how Huo Yuao had done what he just did. If it was merely an illusion, how did Ling Luoqan instantly freeze up and lose all of her fighting power? Earlier, Sister Shadow asked me to release my ultimate martial soul to suppress Sister Ling Luoqan. Huo Yuao said obediently, I figured that there'd definitely be no way for me to suppress her by simply releasing my martial soul, due to the massive gap in our cultivation levels. Thus, I used imitation and imitated the form of my second martial soul. Then, I switched the attribute of that illusion to that of my second martial soul. I did my best to release the aura of an ultimate martial soul. As for what happened to Sister Ling Luoqan, I don't know either. He truly didn't know what had just occurred. When the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion had glanced towards Ling Luoqan, Huo Yuao's mind had gone into a daze for a bit. In reality, the true charm of that gaze had come from the Ice Empress. Ellison scratched his head and furrowed his brow. Ultimate martial soul. Ultimate martial soul. Ah, I understand. Ice. You both have the ice attribute. It's actually an absolute suppression. This ultimate martial soul of yours is too tyrannical. Good. Ha 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 ha. Very good. I understand. Go back. Ellison had truly guessed the approximate essence of the situation. This was absolute suppression. The key to the problem lay in the differences in their elements. Huo Yuao and Ling Luoqan were both of the ice element, but Huo Yuao possessed ultimate ice. Thus, he held an absolute elemental superiority over Ling Luoqan. The moment he imitated the body of the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion, the full power of his ultimate martial soul was released. Though the 3 emperors of the extreme north all belonged to the chilly ice element, the Snow Empress was still the strongest in terms of extremely low temperatures. The Snow Empress controlled the power of snow, while the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion controlled absolute ice as the Ice Empress. In the current Douluo continent, she was completely deserving of the title Ancestor of Ice. In terms of cultivation, Huo Yuao was naturally nowhere near Ling Luoqan. However, the problem lay in the fact that Ling Luoqan had used the power of ice, while Huo Yuao had coincidentally imitated the aura of the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion. The Ice Empress was one of his intelligent soul rings. Thus, she was always paying attention to him. When Huo Yuao had imitated her aura, she was able to sense the existence of a hostile intent that originated from ice. Her concentrated gaze wasn't directed towards Ling Luoqan, but the ice she was controlling. Unless there was an ice user who was even stronger than the Ice Empress, every ice element would fall under her control in front of her aura. This was another fact that showed how weak Huo Yuao was. If he had the same cultivation level as Ling Luoqan, he would be able to possess a sufficient amount of control over his ultimate ice as long as the Ice Empress willed it. Then, he would even be able to directly end Ling Luoqan's life with her own ice if she dared to use it against him. This was one of the terrifying aspects of the Ancestor of Ice, the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion. If the powerful 400,000-year-old Ice Empress still had her main body, she would be an opponent who was rarely seen on the continent. Ellison patted Huo Yuao's shoulder in a somewhat strange manner. I was being narrow-minded. I shouldn't have interrupted your match. This time around, he held Huo Yuao by the armpits and returned back to Ma Xiaotao and the rest with a flash. Everything's normal. Ling Luoqan, leave the battle for now. Everyone else, continue. With that, Ellison stepped into the void and rose back into the air to spectate the match. Both parties were somewhat baffled. The members of preparatory team from the outer courtyard still had some doubts in their hearts, but the disciples from the inner courtyard were very familiar with Ellison's temperament. Even if he usually seemed very erratic, he was always a fair person. Since he made Ling Luoqan leave the match, he naturally had a reason for doing so. At this moment, Ma Xiaotao had approximately guessed at a hint of the truth. Among the disciples of the inner courtyard, she was the only one who knew that Huo Yuao possessed an ultimate martial soul. However, she didn't think that it'd be this strong. We can talk about the specifics once the match is over. Winning's more important now. Ma Xiaotao let out a long hiss, then started her assault again. This time around, both parties were already very close to each other. Huo Yuao reactivated his spiritual detection as though nothing had happened. He consumed a certain amount of soul power while using his imitation earlier, but Ellison had accidentally helped him break through a bottleneck when he was probing the state and aura of his soul power. At this moment, his soul power was restored to its peak state. Gong Yangmo's Rainbow Dragon finally showed its use now. The opposing Yao Haoxuan's auxiliary and weakening skill had already ended, but the former's auxiliary skills were still activated. This was the difference in their martial souls and cultivations. However, a mere 100-year soul skill didn't drain much energy. As the opposing team began their attack, Yao Haoxuan hurriedly re-released the skill he previously used. Right now, both teams were about to clash head-on. The person who made the first move was Chen Zifeng. He hadn't released his martial soul since the beginning of Dai Yueheng's assault, but just as the opposing team started to make their move, he finally revealed it. An intense red light rose from Chen Zifeng's body. It wasn't fire-type soul power like Ma Xiaotao possessed, but one that was purely blood red in color. Following its appearance, Huo Yuao could smell a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood coming from the former's body. Chen Zifeng suddenly raised his head, and the pressure coming from him instantly reached a peak. His eyes turned blood red, and a fierce killing intent emerged from his body. He pointed with the index and middle fingers of his right hand, causing a blood red bolt of lightning to shoot out. The blood red soul power coming from his body seemed to be drawn towards the bloody light, and actually fused with it. At this moment, Huo Yuao could see a blade in Chen Zifeng's hand, a 3 foot 6 inch long blade that was only an inch wide. The slender body of the sword had no guard on it, but there were 3 bloody grooves carved into it. Mysteriously, Chen Zifeng's 5 soul rings didn't undulate around his body. On the contrary, they surrounded this blood red sword. After pausing for a moment in midair, the thin sword shot towards Ma Xiaotao like a blood red rainbow. A bloody wound opened wherever the sword passed, and there was already a strong smell of blood filling the air even before the sword had arrived. This was Chen Zifeng's martial soul chasing sword. Ma Xiaotao had a serious expression on her face. She spread her arms wide as the lightning-like sword flew towards her, causing her intense golden red phoenix flames to blossom out. This was her second soul skill, Phoenix Baptism. This was an omnidirectional attack. Other than that, her first soul ring flickered as she spit out a streak of fire that went straight after the soul-chasing sword. As though it felt pressured, the body of the soul-chasing sword paused briefly and let out a buzz. Right after that, an extremely sharp bloody light flashed. The soul-chasing sword spat out 3 bolts of sword light. Chen Zifeng first and second soul rings lit up, shoving away the streak of phoenix fire that was chasing after him. Though it was slowed somewhat, its trajectory didn't change. It was still headed towards Ma Xiaotao. This was Chen Zifeng's first soul skill, sharpness, and his second one, distraction. The 2 soul skills harmonized with each other, filling his originally sharp soul-chasing sword with destructive power. Just as he released his soul-chasing sword, Chen Zifeng slowed down. He stood behind Tai Yufeng with his right sword finger on his blade, guarding against attacks from the sky. At that moment, Tai Yufeng finally reached Ma Xiaotao. However, even though the leaders of both teams were about to collide, the latter was still under the effects of the soul-chasing sword. In other words, she was under attack from 2 people at once. A dazzlingly golden light suddenly appeared above Ma Xiaotao's head. Once it appeared, it shot outwards, then targeted the person behind Tai Yufeng, Chen Zifeng. This golden light was from Wang Dong, who'd released his second soul skill, Light of the Butterfly Goddess. He was currently standing atop Huo Yuao's shoulders, the latter holding onto his legs with his hands in order to maintain the flow of their Haodong power. The moment they made their move, the battle fully erupted. A bolt of lightning suddenly flickered past Ma Xiaotao's body. Tai Yufeng stopped his charge when he saw this, then squatted down and out a muffled roar. Sharp blades appeared atop his enormous, tiger-like fingers as he carefully guarded himself. Immediately afterwards, a series of consecutive dings rang out. When they struck Tai Yufeng, he became unable to move even half a step forward. On the contrary, an electric light had wrapped itself around his body and entrapped him. Zai Zai had made a move, but Shishi had simply struck too quickly. If Huo Yuao locked onto her with his spiritual detection, he wouldn't have been able to see her clearly. As students that had been able to become official members of Shrek Academy's competing team, none of them were ordinary. All of them had their own respective specialties. The moment that Tai Yufeng slowed down, the combination attack he launched with Chen Zifeng was naturally broken. Ma Xiaotao let out a cold snort, then rushed forwards like a bolt of lightning. She reached for the soul-chasing sword with her hands as she unfurled her wings, which caused a red light to rise alongside the black light her 6th soul ring had begun to emit. The patch of sky around her was almost instantly illuminated by a red light. Ma Xiaotao's 6th soul skill was undoubtedly her strongest one. Furthermore, the floating Gong Yangmo made his move concurrently. Even though Ma Xiaotao thought that he had an extremely vile attitude, the two still held an extremely good relationship. It was a relationship akin to that of the relationship between siblings. Ma Xiaotao hadn't just chosen him due to his strength, but also because of the relatively good synergy that they already had. The Madare Gong Yangmo unfurled his wings, and his 5th soul ring lit up. When he released his 10,000-year soul skill, a green light accurately shot out from his body towards Ma Xiaotao's back. His and Ma Xiaotao's green and red lights fused together in that instant, as if the wind itself were helping stoke the fire. The sky was then dyed red, and enormous, meter-long balls of golden red fire immediately began to fall from the sky and pepper the opposing team. Regardless of whether it was Tai Yufeng or Chen Zifeng, none of the opposing team had expected Ma Xiaotao to launch an all-out attack at the very beginning of the battle. Furthermore, the might of her already terrifying attack had been doubled due to Gong Yangmo's help. Even though this was an attack that covered a large area, its power made Tai Yufeng and the rest's expressions change. If Ling Luoken had still been present, she would have been able to rely on her ice element to weaken Ma Xiaotao's attack. However, she'd already been eliminated. Tai Yufeng's team's only choice was to endure the full might of Ma Xiaotao's strike. Ma Xiaotao's headstrong temperament was undoubtedly fully manifested in her attack. In fact, ever since she'd returned to the official team, Tai Yufeng had been left in a somewhat uncomfortable state. After all, it wasn't easy for him to accept another person taking over as the head of the team. Fine. Since you're not willing to accept it, I'll use my strength to make you do so. Not only was Ma Xiaotao powerful, her mind was extremely sharp. She'd immediately thought of a strategy to suppress her opponents using brute force the moment that Ling Luoken was eliminated. She wanted to defeat her opponents in the shortest possible amount of time. Thus she'd immediately used her strongest soul skill to simplify the situation on the battlefield. The balls of fire that were falling from the sky resembled fiery meteors as they fell towards the ground. Moreover, every single one of these meteors seemed to have her own eyes. All of them had targeted one of the 6 people on the opposing team, with most of them naturally targeting Chen Zifeng and Dai Yuheng. After that, they headed towards Yao Haoxuan, Xu Sanqi, Zhang Nanan, and Xia Xiao. This was the Phoenix Meteor Shower, Ma Xiaotao's 6th soul skill. When the fiery meteors neared their targets, they transformed into the shape of a phoenix and let out reverberating phoenix cries, then immediately accelerated towards their respective targets. Zhang Nanan and Xia Xiao were removed from the battlefield by Elderson straightaway. With this, Dai Yuheng's team had lost another 2 members. Even though Dai Huobin and Zai Zai were both Soul Emperors, Dai Huobin was at a disadvantage against the latter's attacks. Currently, he could only do his best to protect himself. He didn't have any time to care about his teammates. Xu Sanqi was left in an even more miserable state. When the Phoenix Meteor Shower had shot towards them, he hadn't thought of protecting himself. On the contrary, he immediately moved to help Zhang Nanan. Because of that, his enormous shield of the Swanwu Turtle was sent flying towards her with his 4th soul skill activated. However, the sudden acceleration of the Phoenix Meteor Shower caused Elderson to take her out immediately, which resulted in his defensive shield landing on thin air. Almost immediately afterwards, he himself was removed from the battlefield. Now that he'd lost his shield, even a defense-type Soul Master like him wouldn't be able to withstand a full round of the strengthened Phoenix Meteor Shower. It wasn't clear if Elderson had done this on purpose, but Xu Sanqi's entire back had been scorched by the Phoenix Meteor Shower as a result of him arriving a bit late. Fortunately, he was of the water element. Thus, even though he let out a few miserable wails, he hadn't suffered too much damage. In reality, even though Ma Xiaotao was extremely powerful, she wouldn't normally have been able to take out a team of people around their level of strength with just a single attack. However, their team simply wasn't coordinated enough. All of the people from the preparatory team had been disqualified in the blink of an eye. In comparison, the inner courtyard disciple's strength had been fully revealed. Chen Zifeng hadn't let Ma Xiaotao grab hold of his soul-chasing sword, and the moment that the Phoenix Meteor Shower was released, he immediately called his weapon back to him in order to defend himself. When he did so, Ma Xiaotao had no way to pursue him, as she needed to both maintain and control her 6th soul skill. The soul-chasing sword in front of Chen Zifeng continuously carved out startlingly bloody rainbows as the soul rings surrounding it continued to flicker alternatingly. Firstly, it easily shrugged off Wang Dong's Light of the Butterfly Goddess. Afterwards, it slashed apart the meteors that were aimed at him. At the same time, Chen Zifeng continued to move about in an illusory manner. He flashed around at an unusually quick speed in order to dodge a few of the fiery meteors, but when he did, more continued to accurately home in on him. Chen Zifeng had revealed a valiant level of power, but he'd become inwardly puzzled. Just when had Ma Xiaotao reached this level of control with her 6th soul skill, the level of strength that the Phoenix Meteor Shower had revealed once it had undergone Gong Yangmo's auxiliary type skill was entirely real, but when it was strengthened like this, it was normally extremely hard to control it. However, the meteors that had filled the sky seemed to have their own eyes. Every single one of them had homed in one of them. None of them was spared. Even the meteors that had previously been sent towards Xu Sanqi, Zhang Nanan, and Xia Xiao had immediately changed directions in midair the moment that the 3 of them were taken out. They then immediately begun to chase after Dai Yuheng, Yao Haoxuan, and him. There wasn't much difference in the cultivation levels of the members of the official team. The level of control that Ma Xiaotao currently had over her Phoenix Meteor Shower didn't shock Dai Yuheng and the rest. Instead, it caused them to feel that it was strange. This had clearly exceeded the level of control that a Soul Emperor could have. The art of controlling a soul skill mainly relied on a combination of spiritual power and soul power. Besides spiritual type soul masters, who were rarely seen, there was practically no difference in the spiritual powers of soul masters of the same rank. Spiritual power would grow alongside soul power. A special situation would only occur very rarely. The way that Yao Haoxuan blocked the Phoenix Meteor Shower could only be described as strange. He pounded his fists against his chest, which caused halos of light to appear and assist his teammates. He then activated his 5th soul ring, which caused his head to swell up. Afterwards, he opened his mouth and looked towards the sky. In that instant, his mouth swelled to an unimaginable degree. Immediately afterwards, he swallowed an entire meteor, then spat it out towards another. He was actually able to block Ma Xiaotao's attack by relying on a method like this. Dai Yuheng began to feel somewhat panicked when he saw that 3 of his team members had been eliminated. He let out a tiger-like roar, then swatted away a few meteors. Although Flames had begun to appear on his body. He didn't pay them any attention. His first, third, and fifth soul rings simultaneously lit up. A layer of golden white light then covered the surface of his body, which caused his body to expand, after which, the white fur on his body turned golden. Huro Yuao had seen Daluo's third soul skill, the white tiger's verge transformation, before. However, the transformation that the latter had just released was unimaginably stronger than Daluo's. The enormous image of a white tiger then appeared behind Daluo. Its eyes flashed with a golden light, then it charged towards the phoenix meteor shower in a valiant manner. It opened its palms, then either shattered or deflected every meteor that approached it. Its always invincible aura now had a trace of desperation to it. He only had one aim, Ma Shatter, who was currently maintaining her sixth soul skill. She was in an extremely vulnerable position now that she'd released her omnidirectional soul skill. As such, Daluo believed that he'd be able to defeat his remaining opponents with his soul emperor ranked cultivation so long as she was defeated. Ma Shatter didn't have any intentions of retreating from Daluo's assault. She simply let out a low roar, golden road. Afterwards, she rushed forwards to meet Daluo. Furthermore, she continued to maintain the phoenix meteor shower as she did so. The scene of Ma Shatter accelerating with her legs spouting fire once again revealed itself to Huro Yuao. When she accelerated like this, she collided with Daluo in practically an instant. They were both six-ringed assault type soul emperors, and they were both inner courtyard disciples. Furthermore, there was only a slight difference in their cultivations. However, their styles of attack were somewhat different. Ma Shatter relied on energy-based attacks, which was somewhat similar to Wang Dong. However, Daluo was different. He relied on pure physical power. As such, it was Ma Shatter who got the short end of the stick when they met head-on. Following a thunderous roar, the phoenix meteor shower suddenly stopped, and Ma Shatter's body was sent reeling from the backlash. Currently, Daluo had released his first, third, and fifth soul skills. These skills were, respectively, the white tiger's shield, the white tiger's verge transformation, and the white tiger's devil god transformation, all of which had the ability to strengthen his body. However, Ma Shatter hadn't suffered a complete loss. When the two of them had collided, she'd used her fourth skill. Thus, even though she'd been knocked backwards and slightly wounded, her fourth skill had managed to interrupt Daluo's strongest skill. His sixth skill, a fiery red ring, was now revolving around Daluo's body. Afterwards, it spread outwards and cancelled Yao Hashwen's buffs, which made Daluo's body numb, and also made him incapable of using any of his soul skills. Of course, this state only lasted a very short time. After all, his body was currently under the effect of three powerful body-strengthening skills. But at that moment, Huro Yuao and Wang Dong's dazzling golden road hit their target with great accuracy. The moment that Ma Shatter had been knocked back, a huge vertical eye had quietly appeared where she'd been standing before and releasing her phoenix meteor shower. The golden radiance it emitted immediately covered an area 50 meters wide, and left a golden trail behind in the assessment area. Daluo, who was in a weakened state, had no choice but to meet the attack head-on. In an instant, the golden light passed through him. Moreover, Yao Hashwen, who was still swallowing the last of Ma Shatter's phoenix meteor shower and had been about to spit one out, also happened to be directly behind Daluo. As such, he was hit by the golden road as well. When the golden road struck them, two golden statues were left on the battlefield. Thunderous explosions then proceeded to happen one after another. Bei roused his blue lightning tyrant dragon martial soul and charged towards Chen Zifeng's soul chasing sword. If he were to only rely on himself, it would be extremely difficult to deal with Chen Zifeng. However, currently, a very dangerous flash of lightning was beside him. Even someone like Daluo was fearful of Zai Zai's attacks, not to mention Chen Zifeng, and currently, he couldn't avoid them. Amidst the cry of a phoenix, Ma Shatter rolled upwards while in midair. Immediately afterwards, she opened her phoenix wings and charged towards Daluo once again. At the same time, dozens of dazzling lights exploded towards the currently golden form of Yao Hashwen. Huro Yuao and Wang Dong's golden road had the disadvantage of it only being able to attack in a straight line. Despite this, its greatest advantage was its extremely high degree of power. Nevertheless, Daluo's body reverted back to normal in less than 2 seconds. However, this only applied to his outer appearance. His white tiger martial soul was still temporarily neutralized. Yao Hashwen was in the same situation. In fact, he seemed to be in an even more miserable state. He K2 returned to his normal form from that of a 4-meter tall giant, then used all the power in his soul tool to charge towards Yao Hashwen. The outcome could be imagined. This time, it was Daluo that was sent flying. Yao Hashwen was also covered in bruises once he was hit by Hikadu's soul tool head-on. He was directly removed from the battlefield by Elder, so the moment that Hikadu's attacks landed, Ma Shatter didn't go so far as to pursue and attack Daluo again. She unfurled her wings and looked arrogantly down at Chen Zifeng. Admit defeat. Originally, he'd already been at a disadvantage under the Zai Bei combo. However, right now, he was the only one left from his team. What was the point in resisting? He could only helplessly retreat and put an end to the match. The fight had concluded, and it could be only described as an overwhelming victory. No one from Ma Shao's side had been eliminated, yet Daluo's entire team had been annihilated. Nonetheless, Daluo hadn't been injured. Ma Shao had shown mercy when she'd sent him flying. He had a gloomy and surprised expression when he realized that they'd lost. He then looked towards Huro Yuao and Wang Dong, both puzzled and astonished. How had they lost? They'd clearly held a huge advantage in terms of individual strength. How had 4 members of the main team lost so pitifully? Furthermore, the cause of their loss hadn't even been the main members of the enemy team. In fact, he'd already made plans for the strongest of them, Ma Xiaotao. However, Wang Dong, Huro Yuao, and even Bei Bei and Hikadu's power had surpassed his expectations. The 4 members of the preparatory team on Ma Xiaotao's side had played a great role in this battle, while the 3 reserves on his team had little to no impact before they'd been eliminated. Moreover, Ling Luoken hadn't even been able to display her abilities. Ellison came down from the sky with the students he'd rescued. Quick, the losers should accept their punishment, he said with a smile. You'll have another chance later. I'm a pig. Daluo shouted without hesitation. However, his face still twitched, as he hadn't accepted this loss in his heart. Yao Hashwen and Chen Zifeng had no choice either. They shouted the words as well. When Ling Luoken said them, she was carefully scrutinizing Huro Yuao. Xiao also said it without any problems. Even these seniors are shouting it. Would I really lose face if I were to shout it? Jiang Nanan also said in a low and soft voice, I'm a pig. Shu Sanqi attempted to flatter her, as you'd expect from the woman I like. She still looks so cute even when she's calling herself a pig. Jiang Nanan glared at him and said, go away. Wang Dong, who was standing near Huro Yuao, burst into laughter. However, he quickly turned his head away. Huro Yuao's face also twitched as he tried to hold back his laughter. Senior brother Shu was madly in love with Jiang Nanan. Despite this, Jiang Nanan was trying her best to not pay any attention to him. They were truly an interesting couple. Ellison said, good. You have a 2-hour break. Afterwards, since some of you still seem to be unconvinced, you'll fight again. When they heard that they would fight again, the 7 disciples of the inner courtyard immediately sat down and began to recover their soul power. In the fight just now, everyone had used different quantities of soul power. As they meditated, they also went over the information they gained from the fight just now. When they saw this, Huro Yuao and the others also sat down to recover their soul power. Of everyone present, he and Wang Dong had consumed the greatest amount of soul power. Moreover, they'd already used their golden road. They wouldn't be able to use it again if they had to battle in a short while. Huro Yuao and Wang Dong were slowly discovering the peculiarities of the golden road now that they'd used it in battle multiple times. The golden road itself possessed an incredible amount of destructive power. However, its limits were clearly visible when it was used against someone with a higher cultivation. It was a powerful fusion skill that combined both attack and control. Combined with Huro Yuao's spiritual detection, many of its flaws were counterable. Currently, it was without a doubt their strongest skill. Without this skill, their overall strength would definitely drop by a large margin. However, it wasn't like they were completely useless without it. Huro Yuao's spiritual detection was one of the best auxiliary skills a soul master could have. Moreover, they both also had a powerful 1000-year soul skill, and Huro Yuao's ultimate element would also suppress Ling Luoken. Countering an enemy soul king was an extremely useful thing in a battle. The fight just now had left a very deep impression on Huro Yuao. Being able to fight along these senior schoolmates had been of great help to him, as he hadn't needed to show them the way. Just by being in the range of his spiritual detection, they'd be able to understand how they should proceed, and would display the right ability at the right moment. That had been an extremely wondrous feeling. Ellison casually chose a place to sit down. Afterwards, he took a greasy chicken leg out of nowhere and took a bite from it. Currently, his face that was hidden behind a massive extraordinarily messy hair held a pensive expression. No one could tell what he was thinking. 2 hours quickly passed, after which they were all back on their feet. Ellison also stood up. He took a large swig of alcohol, then said with a smile, "Kids, don't be impatient. What's the point of fighting with the same members once again? Therefore, Huo Yuao and Wang Dong will switch teams with Yao Haoxuan and Zhang Nanan. Both sides were surprised when they heard Ellison's words. The ones that had the biggest reaction were Dai Yuheng and Chen Zifeng. Both of them furrowed their brows. On the other hand, the normally cold Ling Luoqin had a pensive expression. Zhang Nanan was eager to get away from Xu Sanqi. As such, she quickly moved towards the opposite party. Yao Haoxuan had a happy expression on his face as he asked Ellison, will the loser have to shout the same slogan as last time? Ellison immediately nodded and said, of course. I'm always fair, after all. Chen Zifeng couldn't refrain from asking, Ellison, I don't think that this is fair. We just lost the battle, yet you've replaced our members with weaker ones. When Xiao Xiao heard Chen Zifeng's words, she angrily retorted, senior schoolmate, how could you consider Huo Yuao and Wang Dong weak? They played a decisive role in the previous battle. Chen Zifeng replied, I'll take those words back if they can still use their fusion skill. Xiao Xiao was immediately dumbfounded. This was still a problem. Given their current strength, Huo Yuao and Wang Dong definitely wouldn't be able to use their golden road again. With this, their overall power would be greatly reduced. Ellison indifferently said, silence. It was an order. I wasn't asking for your opinion. If you have some skills, you better use them in the fight. Before criticizing your teammates, you should make sure to not act like a pig yourself. Now then, make the changes that I said. As Ellison spoke in a grave tone, a burst of oppressive aura began to spread over the area. None of the students dared to say another word, and they quietly exchanged members. Besides Chen Zifeng, Ma Xiaotao was also unwilling to make this exchange. Huo Yuao's spiritual detection was just too useful. Without him, would they still be able to have a tacit understanding like before? When Huo Yuao and Wang Dong arrived at the opposite side, Yao Haoxuan and Zhang Nanan also took their places in the opposite party. Just looking at their lineup, Ma Xiaotao's team seemed to have the advantage. 4 of them were members of the main team, while the other 3 members from the preparatory team were all soul ancestors. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.